Virginia Beach police thwart what they are calling a possible attack at a high school prom held over the weekend at the Westin in Town Center.
2 people have been arrested and are facing terrorism charges. The police chief says they found a semi-automatic rifle and several rounds of ammunition at the Westin. Janu
has more details on how this all unfolded.
Police say 2 people tried to buy tickets to the Bayside High School prom right here at the Westin in Town Center. When residents realized these 2 weren't affiliated with the high school, they turned to police. With information from concerned residents, Virginia Beach police investigated why 2 strangers would try to go to Bayside High School's prom.
We did not have any names of any individuals, nor do we have any reason why that they were trying to do it, but it was kind of unusual for us, for someone not associated with the high school or with anyone at the high school, to want to buy a ticket to show up at that particular event.
This past Saturday, as students filled the Westin Hotel in Town Center for their prom, police upped security, not taking information from the investigation lightly.
We had a very tight internal security plan for the kids at the prom at Westin Hotel.
Between 6 and 10 p.m., police ID'd one of the 2 who tried to buy tickets to the prom. When police confronted him, he ran and threw away a handgun while running. Police didn't arrest him that night, but did get a search warrant for a hotel room at the Westin.
Based on this information, we entered the hotel room. We identified a 17-year-old suspect along with the rifle that you see on that picture. That is a high-point, .45 caliber semi-automatic rifle.
The gun was fully loaded, and there was also additional ammo in the room. Police, through social media and more investigating, found the man who fled, Michael Coleman of Norfolk. Principal Jim Miller said in a statement that extra security was on hand because of previous neighborhood incidents within the Bayside school zone. He says the 2 arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit a terrorist act did not go to Bayside. In Virginia Beach, Janu, 13 News Now.
In a statement from Bayside High School's principal, he also reminds everyone that guests must have a ticket for the graduation ceremony, which is tomorrow, by the way, at the Virginia Beach Convention Center, and that, as in the past, Virginia Beach police will be doing security checks.
A Norfolk woman pleads guilty to an embezzlement scheme. Evelyn Gregory stole more than $300,000 while working as an office manager of a women's health clinic. According to court documents, she used office credit cards between 2007 and 2016. She and her son even started their own debt collection agency, collecting $50,000 in overdue payments from clinic's patients. She then took that money for her personal accounts. Gregory faces a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison when she is sentenced in September.
It's a good time to go through any paperwork that has your personal information and get rid of it. The Newport News Sheriff's Office is hosting its annual Free Shred Day. Workers will have stealth shredding trucks to destroy those documents on site. They shredded 25,000 pounds of paper at last year's event. Shred Day is from 10 until 1 this Saturday at Todd Stadium. A Virginia Beach business centered around children was destroyed this afternoon when a woman drove a car through the front door.
Fortunately, the business was closed at the time, but the woman behind the wheel was injured and was taken to a hospital. Robert Boyd has the story.
Well, the entire facade of Take Two Children's Spa having to be boarded up tonight. You take a walk with me over here, you see all these plastic bags. They are full of debris from the crash when a car went plowing through the front door.
I couldn't even believe the damage that one car could do to a building.
On any given weekend, Take Two Children's Spa would be filled with little kids getting their nails painted and their hair done. Owner Latasha Bates is so glad this happened on a Monday.
I was just thankful that no one was in there and no one was hurt. I'm glad we were closed, so I thank God that we were closed and no one was in the shop.
The car, which smashed through a brick wall, was so far into the building, you'd think it was a garage.
They told me that a car hit the building. I assumed that the car maybe hit the door because she said they were going to board it up, so I didn't think it was anything serious. And then she said, well, the car is still in the building. And I was like, what?
Joanne Kelly was cutting hair at Crew Cuts located in the same strip mall on Kempsville Road, when she saw the car zoom past the window.
I looked to my right when I saw this car fly by, and I was like, holy crap, that person's going like 100 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom.
Kelly called 911, then rushed over to help the woman behind the wheel, who had injured her leg.
We were really worried about the lady that was inside, so everybody was trying to get her out.
Firefighters and EMTs had to bring in the jaws of life to free the woman.
I mean, they took off all the doors, the roof, everything to get her out.
The cause of the crash is still under investigation. But Kelly says all indications, according to rescue workers, was it was a medical issue that caused the woman to lose control.
They were saying that she probably had a stroke or something. It's probably what got her to go driving all the way down the parking lot.
As for Take Two Children's Spa, they plan to get back to manis and petties as soon as possible. In Virginia Beach, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
A fiery car crash in Newport News started with an argument between a husband and wife. Police say Azaria Israel was arguing with his wife when he was driving on Jefferson Avenue. That is when he reportedly assaulted her, then intentionally drove into a store sign at Tech Center. The car went up in flames. 2 children were in the back seat. Everyone got out okay thanks to shoppers who saw what happened.
There was a guy laying on the floor next to the flames, so it was me and like maybe 3 or 4 other people. We kind of just pulled him over to the side.
It looked horrible. It was horrific, and there were people running from across the street, from inside the parking lot. I mean, it looked like a huge tragedy.
Police say everyone in the car is going to be okay. Israel faces malicious wounding, assault, and reckless driving charges.
There is a light at the end of the Lesnar Bridge construction. The $116 million project to rebuild the bridge started in 2014. Currently, it's more than a year behind schedule. Officials tell us the weather has complicated things. Now they are nearly done with the eastbound span of the bridge connecting Shore Drive across the Lynnhaven Inlet. We're told both sides should open to traffic in late August. Drivers and nearby business owners say they are glad there is an end in sight to the construction mess and the traffic delays.
It was definitely a little struggling getting customers in here just because they were doing so much work at the beginning. So we're excited for it to actually be finished so we get a little bit more walking through traffic, even like bikers and runners and stuff like that.
We're told there is still work to be done. The project includes wider sidewalks and more green space. Officials say drivers should expect more traffic changes before the entire project is complete. That date is set for November. Well, tomorrow is primary day in Virginia. There are 12 candidates vying for seats in 5 local contests. There are races. We're going to explain the ones that we're going to be following right here.
In Tuesday's Republican primary for U.S. Senate, there are 3 GOP hopefuls: Nick Freitas, E.W. Jackson, and Corey Stewart, all vying to take on incumbent Democrat Tim Kaine.
All right, control of Congress could be at stake once again in House races. We start in the 2nd congressional district. Republican incumbent Scott Taylor faces opposition from within his own party from Mary Jones. Additionally, Democrats in the 2nd district are also holding a primary featuring Elaine Lauria and Karen Mallard.
And 2 other primaries to keep an eye on tomorrow. In the 1st congressional district, Democrats Vanjie Williams, John Sidarth, and Edwin Santana Jr. will all square off for the right to challenge incumbent Republican Rob Whitman in November. And finally, in the 4th district, Republicans Cheyenne Fenty and Ryan McAdams are facing off for the opportunity to challenge incumbent Democrat Donald McEachin in the fall. The polls are open from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. tomorrow.
Tonight, President Trump, the leader of the free world, meeting face-to-face with one of the world's most brutal dictators, Kim Jong-un. The tense words have 2 leaders exchanged over Twitter, put aside tonight for a summit in Singapore. ABC's Karen Travers has more with the historic meeting.
A moment for history. President Trump and Kim Jong-un shaking hands, the first sitting U.S. president to meet with a North Korean leader. Mr. Trump and Kim all smiles ahead of their one-on-one meeting. No aides with them, just their translators.
I feel really great. We're going to have a great discussion, and I think tremendous success. It'll be tremendously successful. And it's my honor, and we will have a terrific relationship, I have no doubt.
Later, U.S. and North Korean officials joining for a meeting and a working lunch. This historic summit takes place on Singapore's Sentosa Island. Sentosa means peace and tranquility, fitting for what the White House is calling a mission of peace. U.S. and North Korean diplomats have been meeting here in Singapore, working toward a joint statement that President Trump and Kim Jong-un could sign after their meetings. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says a complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization by North Korea is the only outcome the U.S. will accept.
In each of those two countries, there are only two people that can make decisions of this magnitude, and those two people are going to be sitting in a room together.
But there are key differences on the issue of denuclearization. The Trump administration has signaled it wants the process to happen quickly, perhaps even all at once. North Korea has said it wants a phased approach, dismantle in stages, and get something in return at each step.
President Trump will hold a press conference here in Singapore before making the long trip back to Washington. He's called this summit the beginning of a process and has predicted he may need more meetings with Kim Jong-un. Karen Travers, ABC News, traveling with the president in Singapore.